Welcome back to Star Wars Sublight and to the Sublight After Show for the final episode of the Ahsoka series. This finale was tense, it was emotional, and when all was said and done, it was kind of bittersweet. But the future of Star Wars storytelling, especially under the guidance of Dave Filoni, has never been brighter. So without further ado, let's dive in with a quick recap and review of this episode before pointing out a massive 10 details that take Part 8 to a whole new level. Directed by Mandalorian veteran Rick Famuyiwa, Ahsoka Part 8 is titled The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord. This roughly 43-minute episode opens with Thrawn overseeing the preparations, but not before Morgan Elsbeth receives a gift from her ancestors, the Great Mothers.
The gift of shadows.
Meanwhile, Ezra builds his third lightsaber aboard the T6 shuttle,
Well done.
and Ahsoka and Sabine finally heal the rift between them. After being stranded on the Peridian Plains, Team Jedi arrives at the Night Mother stronghold by Hound and fight their way through waves of undead stormtroopers in a race to prevent Thrawn from being unleashed and leaving them stranded in a distant galaxy. And even after all her hard work, Thrawn sacrifices Elsbeth in a last-ditch effort to stall the Jedi.
Morgan is dead.
In a desperate moment, Sabine calls on the Force, and the Force answers. But in the end, she and Ahsoka are left stranded on Peridia, having traded their freedom for Ezra's.
Hi, Hera. Home?
Shin Hati returns to the Raiders on Peridia and dominates them, while Balin's quest for higher power leads him down a path that could bring him to the land of gods in the Star Wars universe, but more on that later. Finally, Ahsoka and Sabine get used to their new surroundings, as the ghost of Anakin Skywalker watches his Padawan teach the next generation in his legacy of masters and apprentices. It's really hard for me to fault this episode. The series as a whole has done a fantastic job of building towards this moment, and it actually managed to pay off. The finale continued Ahsoka's track record of pushing the limits of the Star Wars galaxy, and this could be my favorite piece of storytelling since The Force Awakens. Now that we're all up to speed, let's break down the 10 biggest details hiding just below the surface of Ahsoka Episode 8, The Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord.
Yes, Great Mother.
Morgan Elsbeth was given the full powers of a Night Mother in a ritual which transformed her forever, but it's her weapon which will be especially significant for longtime fans of the Clone Wars.
The blade of Talcin.
After receiving the Gift of Shadows from the Great Mothers, Elsbeth is also given the Blade of Talzin. Talzin is the first Night Mother to be introduced in canon during the Clone Wars Season 3 episode Night Sisters. She's the mother of Darth Maul, who helps resurrect him and sets him on a path of vengeance against the Jedi, the Republic, and Darth Sidious too. Mother Talzin was a powerful witch, but was eventually defeated and destroyed by General Grievous during a battle on the surface of Dathomir. In giving Elsbeth this artifact of the now long dead Night Mother, it shows how far Morgan has risen among the Night Sisters, and goes to show the honor in which the Gift of Shadows bestowed upon her. While Ezra is building his new lightsaber aboard the T6 shuttle, Hu Yang refers to Ezra's master by a different name.
Clever boy Caleb was, very curious. A little shy, perhaps.
That's because his real name wasn't actually Kanan. When Ezra met his master, he went by the name
Kanan Jarrus.
But before the fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire, he was known as Jedi Padawan Caleb Dume. After surviving the horrific betrayal by the clones during Order 66 on the planet Kaller, Caleb Dume became a fugitive, eventually falling under the protection of scoundrel Canis Jasmir. He took Caleb under his wing, and Caleb eventually took a new name, one which reflected his one-time protector. It makes sense that Professor Hu Yang would refer to Kanan as Caleb, seeing as he knew him only as the Padawan in the temple, and not the Jedi fugitive who taught Ezra.
Now it all makes sense.
Ahsoka's discussion with Sabine on the wing of their T6 shuttle during Part 8 has a callback to one of the most important arcs of the Clone Wars series. While the pair reconcile their differences, they get to talking about Sabine's difficult choice to join Balin aboard the Eye of Sion. Ahsoka says she often made difficult choices as a Padawan and that no one understood her reasons, except for her master. She says that Anakin always stood by her as she looks off into the distance. If we could climb inside her head at this moment, we'd see her remembering the events that led to her leaving the Jedi Order. When she made the devastating choice to leave the Order, Anakin says he understood her frustration.
I understand. More than you realize, I understand wanting to walk away from the Order.
He always stood by me,
I believed in you. I stood by you.
even when no one else did.
While remembering how her master stood by her during the hardest moments of her apprenticeship, Ahsoka makes a promise to her own Padawan learner.
I'm going to be there for you.
Ahsoka's series finale is full of huge moments, but this one scene has ties to not just the originals but the sequels as well. We've seen the Force reveal itself in this way not once but twice before in the Star Wars saga. First when Luke is trapped inside the Wampus Cave on Hoth during the opening scenes of The Empire Strikes Back, and again when Rey manages to call the Skywalker saber to her during her confrontation with Kylo Ren on Starkiller Base during the final act of The Force Awakens. In the midst of personal crisis, each of these heroes were able to quiet their mind and could finally hear the Force speaking to them, and when they called upon it, the Force answered. During Ahsoka's final episode, Ezra reveals what happened after he and Thrawn first jumped to Peridea all those years ago at the end of Star Wars Rebels. While riding toward their showdown on the Chimera, Ezra tells Sabine and Ahsoka that Thrawn was the one who woke up the witches. It sounds like they were laying dormant on Peridea before Thrawn's arrival, and it could hint at the reason why they serve him now in his quest to leave this galaxy behind. Ezra and Sabine's Force push and pull move in the Ahsoka finale is a move that comes from the playbook of Ezra and Kanan during the days of the Rebellion.
I push you first and you pull me across.
Even though she doesn't follow through with the second part of the move, it makes sense that she would suggest it.
Go!
Sabine has been on dozens of missions where Ezra and his master Kanan would use the trick to cover long distances and scale large gaps. Ahsoka's final episode touches on the first time that Thrawn met Anakin. That's a story which you'll only find in the pages of a trilogy of novels. Despite the Ahsoka series being about preventing Grand Admiral Thrawn from making a return to the galaxy far, far away, the two are yet to formally meet one another face to face. As he prepares to abandon the Jedi on Peridea, Thrawn can't resist the opportunity to bid Ahsoka farewell and to let her know that he once knew her master, Anakin Skywalker.
I know you, because I knew your master.
The story of how Thrawn came to know Anakin is covered by Timothy Zahn's second book in the canon Thrawn trilogy, Alliances. Their encounter comes during the Clone Wars, sometime after Ahsoka left the Order but before the events of Revenge of the Sith. Thrawn is an officer of the Chiss Expansionary Defense Fleet who is gathering information on the galactic conflict between the Republic and the Separatists.
What a rare sight, almost like the Jedi of old.
During their time together, Thrawn gets the measure of General Skywalker, finding him to be reckless and therefore dangerous. And that's why he refuses to underestimate Ahsoka on Peridea after learning her Jedi lineage.
Her master was General Anakin Skywalker.
If you're enjoying this breakdown so far, you'll love what's in the second half. But first, I wanted to invite you to join us here at Star Wars Sublight by subscribing today, if you haven't already. You'd be amazed at what you miss while traveling at light speed, so why not come out of hyperspace to explore the finer details of the galaxy far, far away? By joining us, you join the thousands already overanalyzing the galaxy together. So what are you waiting for? Sub to Sublight today. During Ahsoka's finale, we only get a glimpse of where Balin's quest has taken him, but it lays the foundation for a story which could change the balance of power in the Force. After breaking off from his service to Morgan Elsbeth in Part 7, Balin set out to find a power greater than any Empire or Night Sister magic, which was calling to him on Peridea.
Where's Balin's gone?
The final shot of Balin's skull shows that he's travelled far on Peridea. As he looks out across the plains to the mountains on the horizon, you'll see three distinct figures carved into the cliffside. These figures are known as the Gods of Mortis, who together hold the Force in balance across the Star Wars universe. We're first introduced to the Gods of Mortis during the Clone Wars. There's the Son, an embodiment of the dark side, the Daughter, who's a manifestation of the light, and the Father, the one who keeps them both in check, ensuring the balance of power doesn't shift too far to one side or the other. You'll notice that the Daughter has been ruined in the cliffside carving. This could be due to her no longer being in play as part of the Triad of the Force.
My daughter, what have I done?
Or because on Peridea, dark witches rule over the planet and obviously tap into dark side magic to cast their spells. Perhaps Mortis calls to Balin because it seeks balance once again. The father previously called to Anakin, hoping he would succeed him in his role of keeping light and dark in check. Balin has proven to hold both light and darkness within him, and could be uniquely suited to the role. Speaking of Mortis gods, there's a nod to another deity during Ahsoka's closing moments. This little bird looks like a Peridian local, but it's actually the spirit of the Force god who embodies the light side of the Force. After Ahsoka's death on Mortis, the Daughter lays down her life force to bring her back to life. Since then, the two have been tied to one another, and Ahsoka has been accompanied by Morai ever since. Morai is believed to be the daughter taken another form, following the one she gave her life force to and ensuring Ahsoka continues to fight for the light side of the Force.
Long live the Empire.
Ahsoka's final episode not only delivers Thrawn to the old galaxy, but also restores the Witch's foothold on Dathomir. Until now, it was believed that the Night Sisters came from Dathomir, but the Ahsoka series and Morgan Elsbeth revealed that they have strongholds on many planets and actually came from a distant galaxy. They are the ones who built the ruins that Ahsoka finds a star map in. They built the reflex point on Cetos, and they have a stronghold in their native galaxy on Peridia. The return of the Great Mothers is the first time Night Sisters have occupied Dathomir in more than 30 years. The previous Night Mothers were killed when General Grievous wiped them out at the request of Darth Sidious. And it looks like Dathomir will be where Thrawn gathers his strength before waging war on the New Republic now that he's back in the known galaxy. The time has come to elect our final MVP for the Ahsoka series. So far we've selected Shin Hati for Part 1, Chopper in Part 2, Ahsoka for Part 3, Hu Yang in Part 4, Anakin/Vader in Part 5, and Sabine in Part 6, as well as the Noti in Part 7. This finale was full of epic moments, but the standout is definitely Sabine this time around, making her our first and only double MVP this series. Sabine proved her worth in keeping her promise to Ezra, providing him with a boost in the Force to get him on the Chimera before it took off out of the new galaxy and making sure he got home. She also stayed behind to help Ahsoka fend off the night troopers that would have eventually overpowered her. Sabine has come a long way from when we first see her in the series premiere, and that is what makes her the MVP of the series finale. What did you think of Ahsoka Part 8, The Jedi, The Witch, and The Warlord? What would you rate this series overall? Let me know in the comments down below, and while you're down there, you can point out any details that you found while watching Part 8 as well. Don't forget to leave a like if you learned something new, sub to Sublight because you like going deep on Star Wars in detail, and remember that the Force will be with you, always.